Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Osborn. And on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic, impactful lessons that they've learned throughout the course of their business career. And as always, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. We use this method to book 26 qualified leads and sales calls in 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, or endless social media posting. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn, and the link to that will be in the show notes below. And on today's show, our special guest is Bridget Hom. She is the owner of Bridge to Freedom Coaching, providing business mindset and strategy consulting. And so, Bridget, welcome to the show. And I want to start off with asking you a question that I always love asking, which is this. If you had a time machine and were able to go back to when you started your very first business, what's the number one piece of advice that you would give yourself?
I would say continue meeting more successful people. I would say you are the average of the 5 people that you associate with, and always be not afraid of forming solid, principled business partnerships.
Yeah, very, very good. Let's talk on that because I love that principle and concept. It's something that I'm always aware of in my own life and has made such a transformative difference in my life as well. Um, some people may have never heard that, which sometimes I wonder how do people not hear about that concept, but they don't. So could you explain a little bit more? And then what are some of the challenges or barriers that people have on, well, how do I find these people? How do I level up in my network and things like that?
Absolutely. What I would say about forming business partnerships is that is the absolute best way to scale faster. And when forming the right partnerships, you need to know 2 things. Number one, you need to know what principles you function out of on a daily basis and in business, and what the other person's principles are of integrity, loyalty, rigorous honesty. You need to know what they're functioning out of. Also, you need to know their success criteria. And I would say that every business owner has this either subconsciously or consciously in order to identify opportunities that are actually opportunities for them. With that being said, success opportunities or success criteria look like this. You must absolutely be able to maximize your ROI by 300%. It must be honoring your roles and goals, and we'll get to that in a second. And then it must also be honoring your zone of genius. You must be functioning in your area of expertise, because we all have various things that we're good at, but what you're a master in is what you would form your business partnership on.
Love that. I love that. So expand on that second point then. You said you'd come back to.
Roles and goals.
Yeah.
Many, I coach the multimillionaires, and then I coach the people under $1 million range. And what I notice for the successful business owners, who I consider the multimillionaires, are that they forget, or they say that they want to focus on their roles and goals, but they don't know how at that point. Profit doesn't equal purpose, although we want to focus on profitability. And what I notice is when you get past a certain range in scaling your businesses, you actually do it based on the motivating factor of everything that you're doing is a reflection of your authentic self, of exactly who you are in every situation. Because, you get to a certain level and you're like, okay, what next? How much more money can I make? How many more partnerships can I create? And so I always encourage, every single entrepreneur that profit will never equal purpose. And so when you're growing and scaling your business, you want to be able to focus on profit and purpose. That means honoring the roles and the goals that you have. Like I'm a mom, I'm a wife. Many of my entrepreneurs are also dads, they're moms, they have other roles, they have nonprofits. And so every single day you want to do one thing to honor each one of your roles, as well as goals to monetize.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So one of the things you'd mentioned there is about those networks, creating those networks. What are some of the key obstacles that people face with doing that? And then also, what are some tips on how people can build their network out stronger and break out of those, even though they might have a great network around them right now, but if they're wanting to go to that next level, to break out into that next level and increase their network?
LinkedIn is a phenomenal place to meet incredible people like you. I've been a part of think tanks, masterminds, nationally, internationally, because of the phenomenal platforms of LinkedIn, Alignable, Facebook. These are incredible networking and monetizing platforms. I actually call them the powerful prospecting platforms to find partnerships as well. But you have to be in front of people. The number one problem I notice for entrepreneurs is that they start to believe that they can create revenue from content. Content is great. It's absolutely necessary in today's day and age. Forbes actually says 78% of people outsell their peers because they have a presence online.
Yeah.
But nothing will ever take the place of building real relationships and having real conversations. And that's how I've developed my partnerships. My first partnership, I actually met him salsa dancing at a dance studio. And we formed a senior placement agency, which he led to help me figure out. I was going to call Bridget Bridge to Freedom Coaching. Bridget O. Freedom Coaching. That should be the name of your coaching business. And that's how that was born. And then a couple of other profitable partnerships along the way as well. For the prop method, a gentleman who had heard me speak, we had been in a networking group. He said, I really feel like this is right. I've seen your character. I see who you are and what you're really good at. And I'd like to talk to you about a partnership. And that's how the prop method came to birth. My mom to birth came into this world. So profitable partnerships happen when you know what you stand for. And you also can come to the table. I want to talk about the next part with a vision.
Yeah.
With sales, you always have to bring, sales means serving others with solutions. And you always have to bring a vision to your prospect of what more and better looks like. With profitable partnerships, you also want to bring a vision of what that partnership can look like together. So keep in mind the vision of what you want this to look like, what more and better looks like is very, very important for every scalable entrepreneur.
Yeah, I love that. Oh my gosh. There's literally there's so much in that, Bridget, that we could unpack. Like it's like people need to re-listen to all of that over the last couple of minutes because there's a lot of really key gold nuggets in there. I'd love to ask a little bit of a different question because I love this question. If you look back on your business career, if you feel comfortable sharing it, what's one of the most or biggest challenges that you've had, or just choose one of them? And what's the number one lesson that you learned from that?
Well, number one, we are all fast forgetters as a human race, and that includes entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I would also say the number one problem and the number one solution is mindset, and that myself included. Because every single day we wake up, we have 168 hours in a week, we have 24 hours in a day. And the number one differentiating factor between the successful, scalable person and entrepreneur and the person who just lives under the influence of circumstances, environments, situations, sabotaged headspace is the ability to be intentional. Intentional with expanding their mindset, their worldview, their ability of what they can accomplish in order to activate the universal laws of energy. I would often say money is energy. And we're not going to go into, woo-woo kind of manifestation. I'm talking about real concrete ways to grow your mindset through the reticular activating system. You know how, if you want a Ferrari, right? Jason, have you ever wanted a car?
Yes.
A car? What car did you want?
So my dream car, which I have now, is a Lexus, right? I've never really been big on super sports cars and stuff. Always wanted Lexus though. So yeah.
And when you wanted the Lexus, you saw Lexuses everywhere, right?
Everywhere. Absolutely.
And how did it make you feel when you saw the Lexus?
Twofold. One, excited because it's like that was my goal, but also kind of like, when am I going to get there? I've been having this goal for a long time. So it was a double-edged sword in a lot of ways.
I love that you said that because that is how the successful, scalable entrepreneur's mindset is. We need to reprogram the reticular activating system with what we want to transpose it into what we believe we deserve. That's how I founded the law of deservability, because you need to get your conscious mind, where it's typically negative. I don't know how I'm going to get there. And your subconscious mind, listen, we're doing this. What's next? It only works with yes and no's to inevitable. This experience of getting this Lexus car is inevitable. This experience of getting to $1 million, $20 million, $30 million is inevitable. And how you do that is becoming intentional with repetition, repeating to reprogram your reticular activating system. Now, it's very, very simple, but most people aren't intentional and consistent with writing that new program. And then every time you have that negative thought creep in, like you said, well, how am I going to get there? You must disregard that how completely. Because the way your subconscious mind works is it's always like a moving sidewalk, moving towards the destination that you believe you deserve. So you have to move past that barrier of possible to inevitable.
Yeah, amazing. I love that. Are there any tips on how to negate those negative thoughts? Because I think we all have them. When we're leveling up, we all have those. What are some ways to actually get rid of those and start to reprogram our mind that way?
The average person has 30,000 negative thoughts a day. And so
Whoa.
yeah, exactly. And I think it might be more for some. And so I created a strategy that all of my successful entrepreneurs use is how to hire and fire the right mental team. It sounds silly,
Okay.
but the truth is the way you fire a negative thought or emotion is by hiring an action. Action takes out fear every single time. For entrepreneurs who are afraid to do that next move, form that next partnership, take that next risk, I always say, be ready before you feel ready. We're all building the plane while we're flying it. Let's be real about that. And then the
Yeah.
plan becomes clear when we take imperfect action. So what I would say is first, write down those negative thought patterns. Write down the actual formula that I use to help you understand what to reprogram and how to do it. Is I say, write down your thought about this scenario, your words, what you're saying about the scenario, your thoughts, words, actions, and emotions. So what are you feeling about the scenario and what are you doing about it? And then flip
Yeah.
the script. Simply write the absolute opposite, the positive of the thoughts, words, actions, and emotions, and then repeat to reprogram every morning, every night. When that subconscious thought or that negative thought creeps in, listen to the new script again. And it is this simple to reprogram to get to a different destination of your choosing, for scaling, for monetizing, for having an incredibly different life, for getting a Lexus or whatever car you want. I love Lexuses. Whatever you want. We are not taught that we can take ownership of our headspace. Say you're not responsible for your first thought. You are responsible for your second thought and your first action.
I love that. Oh gosh. Okay. Wow. Literally, I could talk about this all day long. I love this sort of stuff. So, with where you're going in your business, another question I love to ask, Bridget, is over the next 2 to 3 years, what are your goals? What are you wanting to achieve?
I'm doing more motivational speaking, and that's just what keeps coming in. And I'm very much enjoying that. My boys are in travel soccer, so they're my number one priority. So I love to do local in Florida, and I'll do occasional out of town trips a couple times a year. Fully launching the prop method. I'm going to be launching another book on emotional intelligence and communication strategies. The prop is going to be launched internationally. The prop method, we're going to be equipping prop consultants within each company, making 10 million to 300 million, getting their leaders and teams on the same page with how they problem solve and how they address opportunities. And so that is the next big move with helping corporations to be more emotionally intelligent and problem solve more effectively. And as for my entrepreneurial programs and all the entrepreneurs I get to work with, I always say, you always want to be problem aware and solution seeking. That's the number one mindset to have. And that is something that I love. So continuing to equip entrepreneurs with the mindset, skill set, and scale set for that 7-8 figure growth and above.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Say that again, Bridget. Problem aware and solution seeking. Is that what you said?
Absolutely. Problem aware
Yeah.
and solution seeking.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. That's absolutely phenomenal. Well, for people that want to get in touch with you or learn more about you, what's the best place for them to do that?
Please find me on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out and say hello. If you grabbed a golden nugget from our time together today, please let me know. I would love to hear about it. And if I can equip you or inspire you, educate you, or empower you based on your journey to monetize or hire and fire the right mental team, reach out to me at bridgethom.me.
That's amazing. Wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the show, Bridget. So many gold nuggets in there. I would encourage everyone to listen to this a few times because there's a lot of stuff in there I wanted to unpack, but obviously because of the time we run these in, we just can't. But as a reminder for everyone, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn, and that will be in the show notes below.